Hi, friends. My name is Bree, and I bought myself a cat. You would think buying a cat is nothing special, but then I didn't mention that I spent a whole $1,000,000 on it. It's an insane amount, but not for my family. However, I couldn't even imagine how the purchase would turn out for us. Growing up in a wealthy family, I had everything I wanted, except for one thing. I always dreamed of having a kitten. My parents, on the other hand, were opposed, since they disliked animals. Believe me, I have enough pocket money to support myself and any cat, but I've never gone against my parents. Of course, they spoiled me, but they were also very severe, especially when it came to education. They either took my pocket money or grounded me if I earned terrible grades. My mother crossed a line one day. Despite the fact that we had a large number of maids, she chastised me in front of my friends for not cleaning my room. My parents insisted that I clean up after myself. I didn't argue with her since I was ashamed in front of my friends, so I went to clean up instead of playing board games with them. The constant criticism began to make me so mad that I decided to disobey them on a principle. I always listen to them. I don't talk back to them, and they won't even consider my one wish to have a pet cat. I felt like this was unfair and started looking at ads for kittens for sale. To be honest, I didn't think it would be that difficult. I wanted something unusual to set my pet apart from the other purebred cats. Thus, the kittens were a bit bland. A kitten from the Ash period breed appealed to me. It was so elegant and refined. I didn't even give a thought to how much it would cost. It was only $1,000,000. That is not a lot of money for my family, believe me. Because of the kitten's distinctive coloring, the price was so expensive. It was purple, not white, gray, or even black. That was a strange pet, I thought. I'd undoubtedly stand out online because such an unusual-looking kitten would pique people's interest, as I imagined how many likes and comments a photo of the purple kitten would receive. Of course, I didn't tell them I had stolen $1,000,000 from their stash and spent it on a cat. I thought that in our huge mansion they would hardly notice it. Oh, how naive and stupid I was. Then after the cat joined our family, everything changed dramatically when I brought the kitten. I tried to slip her into my room as discreetly as possible. I didn't leave her all evening. I spent hours playing with Miss Whisker's sequin, only soon as she became less playful and more harmful. She immediately started climbing everywhere, pushing things off the table and shelves, and she even pooped right into my new brand name sneakers. Still, I didn't get mad at Miss Whisker's sequin because she was so cute. However, after a couple of days, I didn't think that way anymore. First, Miss Whisker Sequin was a very nosy cat. She often met me outside while staring at one point on the wall. I even began to think that she could see evil spirits. After all, there are legends about cats seeing all kinds of evil spirits. Second, she refused to eat cat food and preferred expensive pudding, marbled beef, and fresh trout. Third, she would ignore the litter box in favor of my silk sheets. It was a complete nightmare. I was particularly sad when her purple coat's hue faded. It turned out to only be food coloring, and it was all a ruse, and I was a fool for falling for it. Even though I spoke with the breeder for a long time before purchasing her, and he informed me that she was an exceptionally smart and loyal cat that would not cause any trouble, he fooled me. I paid $1,000,000 for a cat who was very picky and whose fur was an ordinary color. I complained to the breeder, but he didn't respond to me, and then he blocked me, so I couldn't keep messaging him or leave him any angry reviews. I thought that I could never get along with Miss Whisker Sequin, but after a while, she became very affectionate towards me. She often trailed me, purred at night when she slept next to me, licked my hands when I petted her. In moments like those, it was impossible to be angry with her, and I was ready to forgive her for everything. Her charm worked on me, but not on my parents. Once when I went to school, I forgot to close the door to my room. Miss Whisker Sequin, of course, ran out to take a walk around the house. As luck would have it, my parents had invited key clients over for dinner to sign a contract on that day, unaware that a cat had gotten under the table. Miss Whisker Sequin began biting everyone's legs for reasons I don't understand. The guests were startled and yelled. My parents were completely unaware of what was going on. They discovered a kitten hissing at them under the table. My mother was practically knocked out by the shock, and my father was baffled. He was stumped as to what to do with the fluffy, unwanted visitor. In the end, they managed to sort things out with their clients, but they couldn't just leave the situation the way it was. In the evening, I came home to a serious conversation about the fact that animals have no place in this house. Mom gave me the lecture, and Dad was already thinking of punishment, but I freaked out and said that Miss Whisker Sequin was going to stay here and live in my room. My parents oddly enough agreed, but warned that if they saw her outside my room again, they would immediately give her away. Only now there was one big problem. Miss Whisker Sequin no longer wanted to stay in my room. Because of this, she enjoyed strolling around the house and exploring it. She drove me insane with her loud meow noises and her want to leave those four confines. But I couldn't allow her. I had no choice but to put up with her whining. Despite this, she was able to flee via the window, which was a complete nightmare. Miss Whisker Sequin is a fictional character. While my cat roamed around the garden, getting into mischief, she trod all over my mother's flowers and then ate them. In addition, after falling into our fountain, she pooped right into it. She bit the gardener's wrist and legs as well. The gardener, of course, didn't like that very much and complained to my parents. I thought they would be so angry that they would immediately sell Miss Whisker Sequin, but they gave me another warning, and then the unexpected happened. Mom suddenly thought of the kitten and decided to pet her. She didn't like it and immediately scratched her and hissed at her for some reason. We thought it was because of her pungent smell of her perfume. But no, Miss Whisker Sequin just disliked my parents. She didn't want to play with them, didn't let them pet her. She also caused trouble in their bedroom, taking things and scratching the expensive furniture. It got to the point where she literally gutted their expensive pillows. My parents didn't want to put up with this any longer and said that the cat had to leave our house. But I didn't want to part with her because she loved me. However, my parents were adamant. I put up an ad to sell the cat for $1 million, but nobody wanted to buy her for that price. However, that wasn't the main problem I would face. My parents suddenly urgently needed $1 million from their stash. They were having some serious problems at work, and this money could help them solve them. When Dad opened the safe and found nothing there, he almost turned gray. He did not understand where all the money had gone. Of course. First of all, they thought of a servant who somehow managed to get to the safe and guess the code. At first, they simply interrogated everyone. Then they began to threaten them with the police. Our cleaning lady could not stand the stress and burst into tears, saying that she had worked hard for our family faithfully and unquestioningly for many years, and that all these accusations were offensive. My parents assumed she was the one who stole the money because no one else got so upset, and I felt extremely ashamed and sorry for our cleaning lady because she really always performed all of her duties. Well, I said that I took the money. But why did you need so much? Were you in trouble? My mother asked, and I struggled to find the courage to tell her the complete story. I stated that I paid $1 million for Miss Whisker Sequin. Because the money had been in the safe for almost a year, I didn't think we'd ever need it. My folks were angered. After my mother freaked out, I wouldn't be surprised if they kicked me and the cat out of the house. They told me no matter what, I had to sell the cat for the same price. Otherwise, our family's business may go out of business. There was no way to get out of this. For the love of money, I didn't paint her purple. That irritated me because I thought it would be unkind to her. On Instagram, I was only trying to play on the feelings of pampered privileged kids. I put up a lot of posts and stories. I didn't really think I'd succeed. But eventually, I managed to trick one girl. She truly believed that this cat used to belong to the presidential family and that if properly fed, it would bring good luck to its owner. Yes, I know it's not good to deceive people, but otherwise I wouldn't be able to sell Miss Whisker Sequin. To be honest, it was hard for me to say goodbye to my pet despite her bad temper. I loved Miss Whisker Sequin. I asked the new owner to sometimes send me photographs of the cat so that I knew that everything was fine with her in the new family. Without her, I was quite lonely. I desired someone to spend time with me, purr in my ear, and engage in playful activities with me. I was in a bad mood. However, by selling the cat, I assisted my parents in avoiding bankruptcy, something they were ecstatic about and eager to celebrate. They surprised me after school one day. In the living room, I noticed a cat house with a kitten napping inside. My eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. My folks purchased a pet for me. We noticed you were upset about having to give up your cat, so we decided to get you a new one. They hugged me and whispered something. The new kitten was calm, docile, and not purebred, but this didn't upset me in the least. I no longer wanted to show off an expensive pet on social media because I realized how petty that was. Do you have pets? Let us know in the comments, like this video, and share it with your friends.
Tell me if it starts to hurt, the dentist says, before reaching into your mouth with a pair of orthodontic pliers and starts pulling your teeth back into place. Evidently, your screams aren't enough of an indication of the extreme pain you feel because he doesn't stop pulling. After what feels like hours of excruciating oral surgery, you're finally standing outside the dentist's office texting with a friend. "Come on, show me. It can't be that bad," reads the message from your friend. You're nervous to send her a picture though, since you have a small crush on the girl and you don't want her to see you in this state. But after she asks you again, you decide to take a quick selfie and send it to her anyway. You snap a photo of your mangled mouth and jaw. The mess of wires had to be hastily applied to move your remaining crooked teeth back into place with globs of fast-hardening epoxy, and the result looks like a low-budget horror movie prosthetic. You send the message and wait. You watch the dots appear that indicate she's writing a response. Then watch as they disappear without a reply. You sadly slip the phone back into your pocket and begin walking away. As you make your way home with your head hung in shame, you keep your mouth shut tight. You don't want any passerby to see what you've become. You decide to detour through the park to avoid as many people as possible, and as you walk, you decide to stop at a picnic table next to a small pond. You sit at the table and watch the ducks mill about in the water. They have it so lucky, you think. Ducks never have to worry about their teeth getting knocked out by a baseball and leaving them looking like a monster. The ducks suddenly all start moving away from your side of the pond, eventually taking flight and leaving completely. You get the sense that you're trying to get away from something and you turn around, but there's nothing behind you. Oh, it must be me, you think. But then you get the sense that there is something behind you again. Still though, there's nothing. It's just you, the picnic table, and the empty pond. You turn back to watch the still water, but you can't shake the feeling that there's something behind you again. "Hello? Is anyone there?" you ask, but no one answers. You turn back to the pond and you scream in fright at the thing standing before you and fall back off the picnic table. You get up out of the dirt and you don't wait to stick around to see what or who is that thing. You start running as fast as you can, but you immediately hear it chasing you. Instinctually, you take out your phone and start trying to take pictures of whatever it is that's behind you. You know that no one will ever believe you and you want some evidence of this thing. You manage to snap off a couple of pictures, but you can hear the creature gaining on you. You scream as your mouth begins to ache. Perhaps running this soon after your surgery is causing your damaged teeth to shift, and the pain is immense. It starts to feel like your mouth is full of jagged rocks, and you can feel that your teeth is pushing them out and stabbing into your mouth. You take one last picture before the creature leaps on you, sending you both to the ground and your phone tumbling into the dirt. Early the next morning, a police perimeter has been set up in the park. The detective arrives and walks past the traumatized-looking jogger who must have been the one that discovered the grisly scene. An officer guarding the site lifts up the police tape so the detective can enter the crime scene that surrounds a body lying under a white sheet. The detective asks the officer if they found anything yet, and the officer hands the detective a plastic bag containing a dirty cell phone. The detective puts on a latex glove and removes the phone from the bag. The screen is cracked, but it still works. There's numerous messages on the screen that look like they're from someone trying to apologize for not responding sooner, then asking where the phone's owner is and if they're mad at her. The detective opens the phone's camera app and starts looking at the last photos that were taken. It's a strange series of pictures. They seem to all be selfies that a young man was taking as he ran through the park. It almost appears as though there's a figure behind him, but it's hard to tell. There's a foggy white vignette on the picture that gets worse the further he looks, slowly closing in until the last photo is nothing but a blurry, milky white screen. The detective flips the phone over and looks at the lens, which he can see is completely covered in a hard white substance. The detective places the phone back in the evidence bag and kneels down next to the body. The police officer turns away. He's already seen the victim and doesn't need to again. The detective pulls down the sheet to reveal a truly shocking sight. The boy's mouth is a mess of teeth. Far, far too many teeth. There are teeth growing out of every part of his gums at horrible angles, filling his mouth and jutting out at painfully odd angles. Who could have done this? What could have done this? The local police department may not have any idea what the state of this victim meant, but the SCP Foundation did, because they had seen the same occurrence dozens of times before. In fact, they had seen it happen so many times that they had classified this anomalous entity as SCP-4910. But it had already earned a much ominous nickname within the Foundation. It was known as the Grinner. Very little is known about SCP-4910, and eyewitness accounts of the creature are extremely brief, due to those who have interacted with it quickly succumbing to its effects. What is known is that SCP-4910 is a quadruped and appeared to be made partially or perhaps entirely out of teeth. Those who encounter SCP-4910 quickly experience its primary anomalous effects, which is that it causes the extreme rapid overproduction of teeth in its victim's mouth. Existing teeth will quickly increase in size, protruding further out of the gums than should be possible, while new teeth will begin to sprout from any available space in the mouth, including the roof of the mouth and underneath the tongue. These new teeth will completely fill the mouth, which almost immediately inhibits their ability to speak or vocalize at all. The creature will then use the opportunity to attack and incapacitate the victim before starting to feed. Further adding to the mystery of SCP-4910's appearance comes from the effect it has on any nearby recording equipment. Cameras and other devices that come within SCP-4910's proximity will have their critical components compromised by a sudden appearance of a layer of dentin, which is the calcified material that partially makes up teeth. Interestingly, SCP-4910 seems to possess some level of intelligence, as it appears able to differentiate between normal civilians, who it hunts for sustenance, and members of organizations that seek to hunt down and contain or harm it, which it uses for an even more nefarious purpose. While the exact mechanics are still unclear, it seems as though SCP-4910 is able to infect certain anomalous organization members with its ability, causing them to act as a vector for the effect, who then spread it to even more victims. This effect is of course of great concern to the Foundation, and containment protocols for infected victims have been hastily put into place. Should a member of staff begin bearing a grin with too many teeth or multiple tooth-filled smiles, they are to be immediately immobilized by any means necessary, though preferably with a firearm that allows one to keep an appropriate distance and hopefully prevent any further spread of the effects. The infected individual is then to be doused in a hydrochloric chemical compound that will reduce the affected to a pulp-like substance. Once this pulp is no longer animate, it can be transferred to the closest incineration site for disposal. Should a member of personnel have an interaction with SCP-4910 and feel like they are exposed to its anomalous effects, they may be saved by taking immediate medical action. Oral surgery to remove the additional teeth has been found to be effective when the procedure is undergone in the first 1 or 2 hours following exposure, though the victim will suffer lifelong permanent physical issues from the procedure. Once 3 hours have passed, the effects will have spread to the rest of the body, with teeth appearing virtually anywhere. Unfortunately for the victim, should their infection reach this point, pain management has been shown to be ineffective, and there is nothing that can be done to alleviate their suffering and save them from termination. SCP-4910 remains at large and has been given the Keter classification. Mobile Task Force Epsilon, codenamed Terrifying Black, is the only MTF authorized to respond to sightings, and they have been given permission to engage the creature and utilize lethal force if necessary, due to the danger this anomaly presents specifically to the SCP Foundation. Now, go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-745, the Headlights, for another predatory creature with a very unique hunting method. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single anomaly as we delve further and further into the SCP Foundation classified archives.